Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead. Aherne. Today's top stories. The Department of Education says no decision's been taken yet on extending mid-term breaks for schools. The number of COVID-19 cases has fallen in all local electoral areas in Waterford except Dungarvan. A Waterford TD says rapid testing should have been trialled here months ago. And in sport, the Republic of Ireland will be without key players for their clash with Wales. New fines for people who breach the COVID regulations will be considered by Cabinet Ministers this afternoon, while the Department of Education has said no decision has been made on whether to extend mid-term breaks for schools. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
The idea of extending mid-term breaks for schools in a bid to combat the spread of COVID was briefly mentioned at a Cabinet meeting this week as one of a number of options that could be considered. It may coincide with further restrictions should Level 3 not arrest the spread of the virus over the next few weeks. But the Department of Education says no decision has been made, and to date schools have not been a major problem for spreading COVID, according to GP Ilona Duffy.
Where we're seeing spread is in the older teenage children, definitely, but it doesn't seem to be from school, because at school actually they're wearing masks all the time. I think the problem was that going to matches and things like that, they were meeting and socialising afterwards. Of
6,718 tests of staff and students at schools has been a positivity rate of just under 2% so far. Labour Education spokesman Aon O'Riordan says the idea of extending midterm has merit, but there needs to be consultation.
For it to be released in this manner without consultation with teacher unions or parents' reps or parents' associations leaves once again from the Department of Education a lot to be desired.
The idea is not on the agenda for the Cabinet Subcommittee on COVID, which will meet this afternoon. Senior ministers will, however, consider a new system of graduated fines for breaching COVID rules, which could be signed off on by a full Cabinet meeting next week.
New figures released by the Department of Health show the numbers of COVID-19 cases are continuing to fall in Waterford City. However, there has been an increase in Dungarvan. WLR's Aoife Kearns has the details.
The breakdown of COVID-19 cases by local electoral area is available since the start of September. However, this week is the first time that Dungarvan has been included. There were fewer than 5 cases in each of the previous releases. In the 2 weeks from the 22nd of September to the 5th of October, there were 9 cases in the Dungarvan area. That gives an incidence rate of 43.9 per 100,000 of the population. In Tramore, Waterford City West, there were 10 cases during that time. That's down from 17 a week ago. Waterford City South and Waterford City East both had 5 cases, down from 24 and 15 cases respectively last week. There was no change in either Lismore or Portlaw Kilmacthomas, where there were fewer than 5 cases in each area.
The number of people being treated for COVID-19 in intensive care is at the highest level since the start of June. The latest figures show 30 patients are in ICUs, with 8 admissions in the last 24 hours. Overall, there are 179 people in hospital with coronavirus. Head of the HSE, Paul Reid, says there's huge concern over the trends.
It's a trend upwards. Thankfully, 2 things. It did start from a lower base from where we were, so that's good. But secondly, just to say, we can't compare lower numbers now versus the peak, because when we were dealing at the peak, when we had 160 people in ICU, we didn't have all the other hospital services running.
There were 3 critical care beds available at University Hospital Waterford yesterday evening, according to the HSE's daily operations update. Several hospitals, including Kilkenny, Galway and both Cork hospitals, had no available critical beds at the time. There was no change in the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 at University Hospital Waterford last night. There were 4 confirmed cases, with a further 8 waiting for the results of COVID testing. A Waterford GP says it's possible to prevent coronavirus from spreading within families. Outbreaks within households account for 70% of all clusters reported since the outbreak began. Dr. Tygo Carroll says his wife contracted COVID-19 in April.
She came home from work with a fever and aches and pains and had her test within a day or 2, tested positive. But from the moment she became symptomatic, we followed the public health guidelines, and she isolated herself in one room in the house. I couldn't go to work for 2 weeks. I didn't get it, and one of my sons, who had moved home in that period, didn't get it either.
He says following the guidelines is essential.
If they follow the advice given that even if it gets into your own house and you follow all the hand washing, masking, social distancing, it is possible to avoid contracting COVID-19.
The government has agreed to run pilot studies of rapid COVID-19 tests. For several months, Waterford Independent TD Matt Shanahan's been calling for antigen tests which can diagnose the virus in 15 minutes. He again raised the issue in the Dáil, and Minister Stephen Donnelly finally had some good news.
We run antigen testing parallel to PCR testing, which is seen as the gold standard. I believe HICWA and NEFIT and the HSE will work together to validate that. What I would like to see is very quickly a situation where it is validated and where our experts believe that there is a role for antigen testing here.
However, Deputy Shanahan says the pilots should have been in place sooner.
I think 13 weeks ago, and it will be proven, I'm quite sure, that antigen testing should have been augmented 13 weeks ago when I brought it to people in NEFIT, and the validation could have been done in all this time. We need it now. We need to get these things delivered, and we need people to be able to engage with thought leaders in NEFIT. They cannot be blind and they cannot be out of communication with other industry peers and medical peers in this country. We are all in it together. We need to use all our resources, Minister.
From day one, the Green List wasn't worth the paper it was written on. That's according to Sean Power from Harvey Travel in Waterford. His comment comes after it emerged yesterday that no countries will be on Ireland's Green List from Monday. Currently, just 4 countries are on the list until then: Cyprus, Finland, Latvia and Liechtenstein. But Sean Power told Damien Tiernan that the Green List countries weren't making a major difference.
From day one, it wasn't worth the paper it was written on because, you know, like 95% of the people that go on holidays out of Ireland go to Spain, Portugal, Greece, Turkey, Cyprus. So basically it was quite non-existent, I suppose.
The combined number of new electric and hybrid cars licensed in the first 9 months of 2020 was more than those licensed in all of 2019. There were just over 15,000 licensed from January to September this year. That compares to 14,300 for the whole of last year. CSO figures show more than 1 in 4 of all new cars licensed for the first time in September 2020 was an electric or hybrid. Over 2,000 people will take part in a virtual walk and run for life this weekend. Traditionally, the annual fundraiser for the Solace Cancer Support Centre would take place in Waterford City on Sunday. People from across the globe are taking part in this year's event called Your Run and Walk for Life Your Way. Carmel Smith from UPMC Waterford, to sponsor the event, says she'll do her bit this weekend.
I'm involved in a cycling group and there are 10 of us doing the Aherne Valley Walk on Sunday, and because I have a few friends with cancer, we all decided we would row in and try and raise as much money as possible because it's virtual this year.
Sports News on WLR.
With Virgin Media Waterford. Want super fast broadband today? Drop into Virgin Media George's Street and take it home with you. Easy as that.
A very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. I'm Nigel Kelly. We will start with soccer, where Aaron Connolly and Adam Ida will both be unavailable for Ireland's Nations League games against Wales and Finland this week. The pair have travelled back to their clubs, having missed last night's Euro 2020 playoff semi-final with Slovakia due to being a close contact of a confirmed COVID-19 case. Meanwhile, manager Stephen Kenny says they have reason to be optimistic about the future, despite last night's disappointment. Their qualification hopes were ended with a penalty shootout defeat to Slovakia in the playoff semi-final. Attention now turns back to UEFA Nations League campaign, with Wales visiting the Aviva Stadium on Sunday. And Kenny says the way they took the game to their opposition last night shows they have the players to do it.
Come away to Slovakia and, deserve to win shows great fortitude and shows that we have got good players, and I think they deserve better. The stakes are high, the prize was absolutely huge, and we can't get it back. You can't get it back. Just have to accept it, unfortunately, and that's the reality.
The Irish under-21 squad will have a keen eye on this evening's European Championship qualifiers. Italy can leapfrog Ireland at the top Group 1 if they win away to third-placed Iceland. The Italians host Ireland in a crucial meeting next Tuesday. Elsewhere, Cork City begin life without manager Neil Fenn this evening. Colin Healy will be in charge of the Leesider this evening as they look to climb off the bottom of the League of Ireland table. They're away to Bohemians with kick-off at 5:45. Elsewhere, Waterford FC are back at home tomorrow, having had a long trip to Derry for their last outing. They came back from the north with nothing to show for it as they were beaten 2-0. They now face Shells in the RSC, a team that they recently beat in their first game after a return of soccer post-lockdown. Blues defender Timothy Sabawali says this game is needed to regain their focus.
We're looking to play Shelburne next week and looking just to get our heads back on. 4 weeks left. We just want to take it game by game, but we know we need to do a lot better.
We'll have live coverage of the game with Shells on WLR from 4:45, thanks to McConnell's Toyota Waterford, with Matt Keane and Ray Scott on duty. Moving to rugby, where Waterford's Jack O'Donoghue has been named to start for Munster in tomorrow's Pro 14 clash with Edinburgh in Thomond Park. He starts a blindside with Tommy O'Donnell wearing the number 7 and CJ Stander at 8 filling the back row. Last week's match winner Ben Healy gets the nod at out half, with the young Craig Casey filling Conor Murray's boots at scrum half. In golf, Shane Larry is placed second after his second round of the BMW Championship at Wentworth. The Open champion is now 12 under par, 7 under for the day. England's Matt Fitzpatrick leads on 14 under after 16 holes, while Padraig Harrington is level par after 2 holes, and Graham McDowell is 1 over, having teed off a short while ago. And in horse racing, there's an 8 race card at Dundalk, which is underway at 5 o'clock, but before that there is a 7 race card at Downpatrick, first and off there at 1:45. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford. WLR asks you to keep Waterford safe by reducing your social contacts.